Hello, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this third ICARUS webinar, which is titled Chat with the Experts, Public Transport Operator Strategies and ICT Solutions in a Post-COVID-19. My name is Eleonora Tu, and I'm Project Manager at the Institute for Transport and Logistics and coordinator of the ICARUS project. And joining me today, I have Lucio Rubini, Giuseppe Zottis, and Giovanni Longo, whom you will meet very shortly. So as the title suggests, today's session is structured more like a chat between two experts where we talk about the technological aspects of public transport. It will last up to 1 hour and it will deal with the technological trends and approaches that were adopted before and after the COVID-19 emergency, which we all got to know very well. So this third webinar, like the past ones, is also hosted thanks to the ICARUS project, which is funded by the Italy-Croatia program. These webinars are organized by Venice International University and the Institute for Transport and Logistics. So with these webinars, our aim is to bring knowledge to public authorities and organizations in the field of transport, mobility, and intermodal solutions. So ICARUS aims at improving passenger intermodal transport connections and also to ease coast interland sustainable accessibility, promoting car independent lifestyles. With this project, our objective is to introduce solutions which are based on innovative technologies to adapt smart mobility in a digital world. We intend to activate a behavioral change in mobility, and we hope to do that using the concept of the mobility as a service. Another activity of the project is to test sustainable multimodal solutions, and in fact we have 8 pilot actions which vary a lot, and they are, for example, related to the harmonization of timetables, bike or car sharing, ticketing, innovative ICT solutions, and you can check them out on our website or by following us on our social networks. So just very quickly, some housekeeping. This webinar is recorded and it will be uploaded on the YouTube channel of the ITL Foundation as well as on the other ICARUS channels. If you are participants, you will be muted throughout the webinar, and you can ask questions by using the question chat function, which you should be seeing in your window. And after that, we will collect all the questions towards the end of the presentation. So that being said, I will leave the floor to my colleague Lucio Rubini, who is lecturer and urban planner at Venice International University. So Lucio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Leonora, for the introduction of the project and of to this webinar. Very quickly, I'm very glad to introduce the 2 speakers of this webinar. We are very happy to have them on board for many reasons. Giovanni Longo, who is PhD and professor of transport system at the University of Trieste, and Giuseppe Zottis, who is operation manager of Trieste Trasporti. Trieste Trasporti is the public transport operator of the city of Trieste. In this webinar, our goal was to combine a research approach to the topic of public transport in these times of COVID-19 with what we think the added value of this talk of today, with the point of view of the transport operator in this in all these issues. And let's say that we will like to have a real-time feedback on the things that are carrying out in these days, all the critical aspects, challenges, and so on. So the structure will be with a short keynote from Giovanni Longo, with the goal of outlining the main axioms of the reasonings, and then we will have a chat, a talk with Giuseppe and feedbacks on this preliminary outline. So again, many thanks to Giovanni and Giuseppe to join us today. And please, I leave the floor to Giovanni for starting. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon and welcome to everybody. Thank you to Eleonora and Lucio for this introduction. Thank you to Giuseppe for his availability and presence with us today. Thank you also to VIU for this opportunity. As you know from the title, we are speaking about public transport and in particular about operator strategies and ICT solution in this pandemic situation. In this webinar, the discussion will be organized in 3 steps, as you can see in this slide. First, the beginning, we will focus on which were general mobility trends and the corresponding possible scenarios before the coronavirus pandemic. So let's think the scenarios that have been thought by the end of last year, more or less. Second, we will go in much more detail in the discussion about the role of public transport and the corresponding strategies for operators. Again, thinking about the situation before the pandemic. These 2 items are both referred to the previous situation, and they are important in order to better understand which is the actual state of the art that can help us in the reaction to this disruption. Because of course, this situation is the result of choices that have been taken before the pandemic. Finally, in the third point, we will focus on what is changed after COVID-19. I will give some first elements for each of these points, step by step, and then I will give the floor for each point to Giuseppe in order to listen his opinion and for the description of his experience in this topic. Okay. Next, thank you, Giuseppe. These are main items and trends that can be found in the analysis of documentation and studies coming from both the academia and from consultants and technology providers. These are some sort of bullet points. The trends are transportation demand increase, mainly related to the increase of population worldwide, the increase of GDP, and there is another item that is urbanization, which lead to cities that are bigger and bigger all around the world. Second item is the need for sustainability. Of course, this is important because transportation sector is responsible of around 23% of greenhouse gas emission and of around 27% of energy consumption. Of course, transportation sector is not the only responsible for the impact on the environment, but of course its role is important. Then there are new technologies, wide range of new technology, but I try to simplify in 3 main items that are electrification, connectivity, and autonomy. Electrification means that thanks to the technological improvement, mainly on batteries, now costs for electric vehicles are reduced. Of course, electric power reduce also noise and air pollutant emission, at least locally. This will refer to all vehicles, not only cars, but also bikes, scooters, and also buses. Of course, there is maybe the need for proper infrastructure for charging, of course. Anyway, electrification is an issue. Second, connectivity. In this moment, cars are becoming a sort of computers on wheels to increase safety, to improve the onboard experience. And together with autonomy, which is the third, of course, there could also be the increase also productivity. Think about the different use of the time that you are spending while driving at the moment, that you can spend on board in an automated car. Autonomy can also reduce the need for parking lots. Somebody is saying that autonomy would also lead to a reduction of congestion, but I'm not so sure, because I strongly believe that autonomy can lead to an increase of circulating vehicles. Maybe, let's have a look. But anyway, no one seems at the moment to doubt that in the longer term scenario, automated cars will replace human operated vehicles. Finally, there are new, let's say, approaches that lead from speaking about mobility to speaking about accessibility. Sharing mobility is, of course, a very important issue, together with mobility as a service. All these new approaches can lead to more flexible transportation solutions that may be also more convenient according to user perspective. And now the problem is, which could be the next, please, which could be the vision and the role of public transport in this context for the future? Should be work to integration, or on the contrary, on competition with other transportation mode? In my opinion, I think that public transport must play also in the future a key role in the transportation supply, especially for computer strips, for high volumes corridors and itineraries in large city. And I strongly believe that integration is definitely a key issue in order to let the public transport play the proper role in transportation supply, in order to let the system to reach its own optimum, which is not exactly the same that the more convenient choice for the user. I don't know what is the opinion of Giuseppe. Giuseppe, do you agree about this? What is your opinion about these two topics?
I am perfectly agree. Public transport has to lead the future of mobility, and public transport companies must keep up with the times in order to integrate with all the new modes of transport. Yes, I agree. There must absolutely be integration, and there must be a mobility plan that takes this integration into consideration and facilitates model exchange. And for example, our is the youngest fleet in Italy, and thanks to all the ICT we try to give the highest quality of service. For example, with the electronic ticketing systems, or the AVM, the automatic vehicle monitoring, and with the app.
Okay, thank you. So we are then moving to the second point of view, which is, of course, trends in transportation, in public transportation. And that, of course, must play a very important role both in present and the future. And next, please. Also regarding operator strategies and ICT pre-COVID-19, I think that all the operators are trying to increase both capacity and service quality. Sometimes these are conflicting goals, but companies try to increase both volumes and to improve also the onboard experience of customers. The second trend is innovation, that of course refer to vehicles power, as we said before. We spoke about electrification, but the fleet management, but also regarding ticketing. Think about the smart ticketing possibility that now are reality, information and communication to customers, flexibility, and whatever. But there could be at least two very important challenges, in my opinion, that are, from one side, the system perspective. I believe that important planning efforts are needed to guide the system towards its own optimum. And second, through mobility management, sorry. And second, there could be also some regulation issue to make it possible higher flexibility levels for public transport companies. So next, starting from this consideration. And according to this couple of questions, which is the state of the art, for example, regarding ICT from an operator's perspective, may technologies help in defining a new role for public transport in the new mobility as a service paradigms, which is the relationship between technologies and regulation issue. So then I give again the floor to Giuseppe in order to listen about which is the experience of his own and also of his company in this context.
Yes. Before I answer the question, I want to say only two things about my company. The Trieste Trasporti is the first company in Italy after Venice, Milan, and Rome as the customer over inhabitants ratio. So we are a company with a lot of customers. And we have, like I said before, we have the youngest fleet. And in the latest customer satisfaction survey, the survey showed that the 98.1% of customers declare they are satisfied with the service, and 96.8% of customers express a positive opinion on the companies and the company's reputation and environmental and ethical commitment and on investment in technology and innovation. So this underlined the importance that Trieste Trasporti gives to the innovation and to the ICT. And so about the state of art, and so about your question in Trieste Trasporti, we invest a lot of money, a lot of time in ICT for only one reason, because we want to give a service of high quality to our customers. And so the center of our decision is the customer, is the clients. And also the ICT choices turn around these clients. So our technologies, the technologies that we have on our fleet in our cities are Wi-Fi system. Wi-Fi system, I explain in a short time what I do a short description about this system. And the Wi-Fi system is active on 100% of our fleet. And in the past, we used the user had to register to be able to use the Wi-Fi system, but in the last year it was improved and it was made accessible without the need for authentication. So it has become a system open to all users now. Then we have also an electronic displays at the bus stop. Okay. And some displays are being installed at bus stops to communicate the transit time. These displays use an innovative technology with low consumption. And this system has the possibility to be updated, and we can the user can see the time in real time, the arrival time in real time. And another one technology is I open all of this, okay, is the ticketing vending machine. And these ticket vending machines have been positioned throughout the province of Trieste. And the users consequently changed their habits accordingly and starting using this TVM, these machines. And the TVM could be used also to carry out marketing campaigns, because it's possible to show some images on the screen, and so we can use it also to some marketing campaigns. And then we have a contactless ticket system. But this system is a project and give the possibility to purchase travel tickets on board. by means of credit cards or other electronic payment instruments, simply and quickly, without having to necessarily use apps or SMSs. Then we have the app, and so with the app is possible buy the ticket or have information about the time of buses and the arrival time at the bus stops. Then we have also monitor on board. In all the fleet, there are these monitor that at the moment gives information about the company, but in the future we can give information also about the next stop and the time of the buses and other information for the about the service. Then in 2019 we started with a project that was an on-demand service system, and this was an European project, and this on-demand bus service operated on the Trieste coast outskirts from July to September 2019, and it operated every day of the week, including holidays, and was possible. The clients could throw out an app or the website. The clients could booking the service or calling the call center. And 2 buses were deployed to carry out the service. One operated in the western area, the other one in the east area. And now, at the moment, this project finished in September 2019, but for us this was very important because we collected a lot of information about this type of service, about the website, about a new system for us to give this type of service to our customers. At the end, we have the AVM system, automatic vehicle monitoring system, and the passenger counting. The AVM system, it is used to locate the buses, to locate the position of the buses in real time. And it is very important for the certification. So it's important for the relation with the concessionaire, with the Friuli Venezia Giulia region, and the AVM gives information about the transit times to the electronic bus stop signs, and so to the electronic displays as stops, and gives information about and gives also information to the operating room when the driver calls for some traffic jam or accidents. The man that stays in the call center can see on the PC where is the position of the bus. And this system in this period is really important because now is started a new contract on new regional public transport service with four companies of the region, and many things in the contract is changed, and many things are changed, and one of these things is the application of the penalties for early or late transit stops. Therefore, the 4 companies in the last few months have carried out an important revision of the scheduled bus timetable in order to reduce penalties and to offer customers a high level of service. For this review activity, the companies have used the data provided by AVM. The use of millions of readings of transit times at the stops and the application of particular algorithms has allowed the creation of a new bus timetable. So in this period, the AVM for us is very, very important, and we have do important work on the bus timetable throughout the system. So this is all the technology that we are using, and the state of art in Trieste Trasporti.
Thank you very much. Really interesting. As we can see, previous for a while, Giuseppe, please. The previous one. As you can see here, there are a lot of solutions of ICT. Some of them are related to the improvement of the quality of the service. Some of them are definitely devoted to increase the quality of the service for customers. So I strongly believe that these are the results of a strategy from a transit operator in the direction of increase its attractiveness and the role of public transport within the transportation supply. Thank you. Next. Now, third point, what is changed after coronavirus? What is new? Of course, social distances, smart working, lockdown. Of course, these solutions that were needed lead to strong reduction in transportation demand flows. Of course, because during the lockdown, people should stay at home directly with the smart working. They do not need to move to their office to perform the job, at least some of them. So, of course, the impact of flows is really strong, and therefore, of course, reduction of flows means a reduction of revenues from operator perspective. And this may be really important for transport. I believe this is the effect not only on transportation systems, but we are speaking about transportation, of course, today. Then social distances higher led to a reduction of people that can be loaded on the vehicles, which means capacity reduction unless some service increase can be realized if possible. This means, of course, cost increase. So you can see that we have a very critical situation. On one side, reduction on revenue. On the other side, increase of costs. So it's really difficult to deal with this kind of situation for a company, I suppose. Moreover, there are some new constraints that maybe require new planning issues. Again, to foster maybe the integration between demand management on one side and supply planning on the other side. I really think that it's a very strong challenge to, and I would like next, please, to discuss with Giuseppe, in his opinion, if this impacts is next, please, Giuseppe. Which is the impact of this lockdown on the phase 2 on public transport company, and then if the ICT solution that were described before and experience can help in defining new service after COVID-19, helping in the so-called resilience of the system, let's say the ability of the system to recover from disruptions, because of course this pandemic is for sure a very strong disruption in the transportation system.
Like you said, during the COVID-19 emergency, local public transport companies faced some challenges, some important challenges. The main impact factors were obligation of social distancing and reduction of clients and so of traffic revenues. The Prime Minister's decrees and regional ordinances impose a maximum number of passengers on board. However, the driver cannot count people getting on and off the bus. Law enforcement officers don't carry out checks at stops or on board. So what companies can do is only prohibit sitting and do a plan of this new service correctly. On buses that operate the urban service, 70% of the bus's capacity is allocated to standing passengers. Therefore, most users remain standing, and it is impossible to guarantee a distance of 1 meter during the journey. So we have to do a correct planning. And for do this planning, Trieste Trasporti used the technology. We used passenger counting devices. From March 17th, the transport offer was reduced by approximately 30%. In the following weeks, the loads of the buses were monitored daily to verify the maximum number of passengers on board, and when there were overload situation, the company increased the number of trips or of the buses. And these devices, the passenger counter, have allowed us to make a gradual and rational increases in the transport service. We also periodically communicated these numbers to the Friuli Venezia Giulia region, which transmitted this data to the Ministry of Transport. And here you can see a dashboard with an example of one day. And during the emergency, I every day look at this dashboard to see the number of the passengers on board in our buses. For example, in this figure, you can see the 17th of June, and every day I can put the number of the maximum of passengers on board. For example, here we have 20 people, and on the dashboard I can see all the ride, and so all the bus where I had more than 10 or more than 12 people. And so if for 2 days, 3 days, or for a week I saw that in the same line, in the same ride, I had a number that was upper than the maximum in the company, we decided to put more buses on that line. And another technology that we used during the emergency was the monitor on board. Here you can see a photo about this monitor, one monitor in one of our buses, and some of the messages that we put on the monitor. For example, in one is written that on board there is the obligation to wear the mask, and in the other one there is a message that says that the police are doing some checks on board to verify the people that go on bus. And also during the emergency, we reactivated the on-demand service. This time not in the cars, but in city. And we activated this on-demand service on 3 lines. So in 3 lines, line 1, 11, and 17. And for only 2 weeks. In this way, we gave the opportunity to customers to choose a different type of service, a service where they had they knew that the number of the passengers was not over the maximum. And this is a way that the company has chosen to don't lose all the passengers or less passenger. This service showed some limits because it's a type of service that is not so easy to use in the city, but is a service for the low demand. But I think that we had to do this type of choice in that moment, and also we now are studying another type of service, the booking service. So another system a system that allow to the client to book a bus, a regular bus. So at the stop, the customer can book with the app the bus that is arriving, and the customer received an answer from the app if there are or not seats free on that bus. And this is another types of service that probably we will start in, I think, 1 month.
Thank you very much. It is really interesting to listen about your, let's say, reaction to this disruption. And in my opinion, it is important to underline the importance of ICT technologies in order to be able to modify these services. And I think that the reaction that your company were able to put in operation in a very short time is really thanks to the very good state of the art that was available also before the starting of this coronavirus pandemic. And I strongly believe that these technologies may help in all situations to improve the planning of the services. But, according to what you explained to us a couple of minutes ago, these solutions were really important to be able to offer anyway the transport service, which is of course really necessary in a city, but with the respect of all the constraints coming from the regulation. So it's really very, very interesting. I don't know if there are some questions.
I'm sorry, Giovanni. I want to see only one more things, because I think that in this period is very essential that the public administration make clear decisions and in the right times. I know that it is a very difficult period for everyone, so also for the public administration, but we can't manage public transport like a supermarket. Planning must be done in advance for the safety of all of our customers, and not to create further economic damage to the companies. Thank you.
I definitely agree with you, Giuseppe. Thank you, because you focus on a very important issue, because company may have all the technology that they want, but of course they must put in operation something that is of course agreed with the public administration. This is really important. I know that it was an issue also in the railway sector.
Yeah, thank you so much for this talk. I've gathered a couple of questions for the audience. I would like to start with one of the last points of your talk when you mentioned the on-demand service. it's interesting to know that you have already somehow tested in your area, and probably the first question is how you are going to test again in this new situation, this opportunity, is if and where and how. And the second point is very strictly to this one, is the sustainability, the financial sustainability of on-demand services, because as you already know, the on-demand services is against the massification concept that the public transport paradigm adopted in the past decades. So in which way could the on-demand services have a long-term sustainability starting by this situation? So for recapping the question, if and when you are testing these on-demand services, and which is the key for the sustainability of on-demand services. I hope the question is clear.
Yes.
For both of, it's basically for Giuseppe, but also Giovanni, if you could add something. Thank you.
Yes, we did this experience a second time, because the first time was on the karst, and so this time we did this experience in the city for a reason, because on-demand service is a system that is more suitable for the serving low demand areas. But this was an extraordinary situation. It was not a normal situation. It's a situation in which the people didn't use the public transport because they had fear, and they thought that the public transport weren't a safety transport way, and so we wanted to give another possibility, and this was a challenge. We didn't know if the people liked or not this type of service, and so in what we saw is that a lot of young people used this type of service in city, and on the line that was used more by young people, we had 10, 20 people a day that use every day this system. But I know that is not the system that that could have a long life in a urban context, and I think that this could be a good alternative to the regular service in some places like the karst, and where now we have used the buses for this type of service, but I think that we will use also in the future this system, but I think that with a different type of vehicle, not long buses, but with short buses. So also the sustainability, I think that will be more that is possible to reduce the cost for this system also in this way. And for us, this was a good experience also to test the technology, to test the website, to test the app, and I'm sure that in the future we will repeat this system with more knowledge that we can use to improve this type of service.
Thank you, Giuseppe. I just would like to add some comments about this, if I can, Lucio. I think that in this specific situation, it is the second experience that Trieste made about on-demand services. Of course, here there is a sort of emergency, and I strongly agree with Giuseppe when he said that this was one way to win thirds of people to board again on board public transport vehicles. I think that sustainability in this context is quite a difficult challenge, unless they can use smaller vehicles, as Giuseppe was saying. But I would suggest also to have the possibility of a sort of flexibility also in the fares and ticketing schemes, because I think that the quality of the service may be definitely higher, especially during the emergency, but also in parts the not populated area or during the nights. I believe that people are willing to pay even something more than the common in the normal ticket, and I hope this should be possible according to regulation. Otherwise, of course, there must be public support from my perspective.
Okay, and another question that I've gathered, it's somehow connected to this topic, because one option could be some new partnership with the market, let's say, because we're talking about some on-demand services totally covered by the public transport operator, but could be also, in your opinion, a way to exploit some new partnership with privates in combining new services with new partnership in terms of public and private partnership in providing the service. Could be a way.
I think that it could be.
Sorry, the second very quick question: who set the rules in this kind of in these options? Who is the rule setters?
Yeah, I think that there is the possibility of a partnership with private company, with other company, and I think that this is the future of the mobility. The second question is the answer of the first one, because in this in a town, in a city, in a big city in particular, the partnership in the mobility necessarily must be lead from an administrator. So the public administration has an important rule, a fundamental rule for the sharing mobility, for the partnership in mobility. For example, in a city, we have not a lot of places where we have interconnection, where we can change the type of vehicles, type of service. And so I think that is very important that there is some more, that the public administration creates other point of interchange between the different type of vehicles. And there are some places where I can go with the bus, where is a very the only, for example, the only way of transport is the bicycle or the small cars. And if I know that I can use my bike, electric bike, or my bike until a point where I can leave my bike and take the bus in a few minutes, this is an advantage also for the public company, or for other type of service. For another example is the change between the rail and the buses, or the extra-urban with the urban. we need to point of exchange, and we need that the public administration take decision also about this interconnection between different ways of transport.
And I agree with Giuseppe. I think that the problem is setting the correct level of integration between regular services, on-demand services, and other transportation modes to offer accessibility to all the territory of good level of service. And so this was, I was saying before, what I was meaning when I spoke about good planning efforts and challenges. I think that there should be also some regulation constraints regarding subcontracts and whatever, but in both issues, I really agree with Giuseppe when he is saying that the role of public administration is really important, really. Together, of course, with the companies, not on opposite side of a sort of fight, I don't know. They should work together in order to find the best solution for the system. Really, I strongly believe that the system optimum is not the user optimum. If we do not guide the system towards its optimum, it's really impossible that all the new mobility as a service, sharing and whatever can help us in solving congestion issue. No way from my perspective. The system will not reach its optimum by itself. Regulation and planning together between public administration that must be able to take decision, correct the decision, of course, in proper times, in combination with companies is really the main issue in this moment, I believe. I think, and I conclude I think that this was an issue still before, but during this emergency is really clear that this is an issue. Company by themselves cannot do everything by themselves. Increasing costs, decreasing the revenue, this is not sustainable for a long time, of course.
Okay.
This is my opinion. I don't know if you agree, Lucio, but
no. Yeah, I agree. I'm good points. Good points. I share your points of view. I'm thinking about if I don't know, Eleonora, if you are online, if you have
If you have additional question, otherwise I took during this discussion some notes that as a conclusion I would like to share with you, of course, and also Giuseppe can of course add something, but just some takeaway bullet points. I think that one issue is that public transport is and should remain also in the future a key component of the transportation supply system. Second, that innovation is required, not only to be able to respond to disruption, but to also increase performances, to increase attractiveness of a public transport. Also to be able to modify dynamically the planning of services, as Giuseppe was saying before. Then I think that innovation can contribute to integration, because I think that integration is another key concept in transport from my perspective. And of course, companies cannot do all these issues by themselves. I really believe and strongly believe that the cooperation between companies, of course, customers, unions, but also the public administration is really necessary, both at planning level and at regulatory level.
Thank you, Giovanni. Leonora, if you want to add something to the talk.
No, actually, I think it was all very, very interesting, and thank you also, Giovanni, for these final last points. Definitely, public transport has an important role to play. I think that generally speaking, it's very hard to think to public transport as an alternative to other flexible modes of transport, but definitely the integration between different modes of transport should be encouraged. And of course, this is also the reason why we should always improve on public transport as well. I don't know if there is any more question that you would like to highlight, Lucio.
No, it's fine from my side.
Okay, I'm just going through the notes whether yeah, so I think we got to answer all the questions that we had from the audience, and also it's 3 o'clock now, so we have almost run out of time. That being said, I think let me see. We are also receiving some congratulations and thanks from our audience, which yeah, which we also thank for attending. That being said, yeah, I would just close the webinar by saying again, thank you all for taking part. Thank you for to all our experts to joining us today, and of course to the program and the project that made this webinar possible. So for, as you know, thanks to ICARUS, we have a series of webinars which will resume during the fall. So please keep tuned in and follow us on our social networks to get some more information about them. And yeah, so until next time, see you soon, and bye bye. Thank you again.
Thank you very
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.